Every overpowered strategy in the history of the game was once completely undiscovered, just waiting for someone to one day stumble upon it. It took years for Blue Ezreal to be found by a random gold player, and once found by challengers, took over high elo and destroyed games left and right. Then, I'm sure most of you remember the nightmare that was the Master Yi Taric funnel strat that was abused by boosters everywhere and ruined the game until Riot literally patched it out. Now, our experts at Skillcapped have uncovered another strategy that we believe to be just as game-breaking, this time with bel'veth. Our resident challenger jungler Skillshot brought this to my attention today, and I'll just let his OPGGs speak for themselves. Once finding this strategy, he went on an absolute tear in Masters Elo, and then, to make sure it wasn't a fluke or just a lucky account, went on a second one to try it again. And look at the results. Now I know what all of you are thinking. He's just a challenger player and has a lot of experience on the champion, so of course he's going to make bel'veth look broken. And this would be a pretty decent argument, except if we look at the bel'veth games he played before finding the strategy, they're not nearly as good. Okay, so what if he just got better at the champ? Well, to prove that it's not just him, but this strategy, I, someone who has never played bel'veth in my life, and is old enough to check into the esports retirement home with a medical plan for my arthritis, will be showcasing that this in fact works even when you really don't know what you're doing and your hands are getting worse by the day. I gave myself one day to learn and execute this strategy consistently. Of course, there are growing pains with learning any new champion, but this is my literal second game on bel'veth ever, and I'm already able to pull off some pretty nice outplays. By the fourth game, I was successfully executing and 1v9ing the game, feeling like a complete natural. And I'm not the only one who saw immediate results. Many of our website subscribers also started winning an insane amount of games. And by the way, this is why our hyper improvement platform at skillcap.com is so effective. We know that the strategies you see in pro play and challenger games don't always work in lower ranks where you have terrible teammates. This is why everything we teach at Skillcapped is put to the test in lower ranks to prove it actually works. Why waste your time grinding thousands of ranked games only to learn what we can teach you in minutes? In fact, we're so confident you'll get results that we guarantee you'll climb 5 divisions while actively using our service. So, what are you waiting for? Get the rank you've always wanted and click the link in the description below. Alright, now let's dive back into this bel'veth strategy. There are two main components of this strat, and a few reasons why only bel'veth can do it. So let's discuss the first point. We want to rush objectives as fast as possible and as soon as they spawn. Objectives in this meta are extremely important. Dragons were recently buffed by 50%, and Rift Herald gives a ton more gold now on kill on top of some extra added bonuses. The issue with rushing objectives is that you have to spend a lot of time to do them. This is time that other junglers can go do other things, like counter jungling or ganking, and then on the next play, you're probably going to be weaker than them. So the issue is that objectives are good, but when you do them, you don't exactly get as strong as you would from doing other things, causing you to fall behind individually, and then you can't do more objectives. Quite the conundrum. Well, cue bel'veth. When you kill enemy champions or objectives, Void Coral drops on the ground and activates your true form, massively buffing your champion and basically putting you on steroids for a minute. If you kill Void creatures, aka Rift Herald and Baron, enhanced Void Coral drops, which lasts for 3 minutes instead and causes bel'veth to spawn zerglings from enemy minions that die. Basically, bel'veth gets extremely good from doing objectives. Not only do you make progress into actually winning the game, you're the only champion that benefits individually this much from doing them, making her very unique in that way. Okay, so rushing objectives isn't exactly rocket science, and you can hardly call it a strategy. While bel'veth is insanely good at doing these objectives solo, you're still going to have a hard time doing them if there's outside interference from laners. It doesn't matter what champion you're playing if the whole enemy team collapses on you while you're doing it. Simply saying rush objectives just doesn't work because of this. So how do you make it so that the enemy team just doesn't collapse on you? Well, you just remove the other jungler from the game completely. If you're able to pressure all of the lanes and the enemy jungler just doesn't exist, it's pretty easy to imagine how you wouldn't have to deal with the headache that is your lanes not having priority. So objective 2 is remove the enemy jungler from the game. But that's way easier said than done. Or is it? The whole strategy is possible because of bel'veth's very unique kit at level 1 and 2. Her Q has 4 charges and does AoE. 1 ability with 4 charges. If you're a jungler, maybe your mind just instantly went to one thing. Bel'veth is hands down the best level 1 raptor clear in the game. With 4 Qs and a specific rune setup, we can simply kill all of the little raptors and focus the large one down, killing it extremely quickly and getting level 2 faster than anyone else in the game. In a fight, the fact that you can cast Q 4 times and 5 with W means that with autos you can stack your Conqueror up to a max quicker than any other champion in the game too, making you the absolute best duelist capable of fighting literally any champion. So if we combine these two things together, we have a champion that can get level 2 faster than anyone else, and that can also fight anyone at level 2. Maybe you see where I'm going with this. The core of this strategy revolves around solo starting raptors and immediately invading the enemy jungle. Even a champion like Graves, who is normally known for being a terrifying early duelist and healthy clear, falls victim to this strat. In this example, Skillshot kills his raptors so quickly that he's able to actually make it to his opponent's buff before he's done with it, and he smites it away. Now, with hard CC and a million dashes, he can simply run Graves down and counter jungle his Gromp as well. This is definitely something that is pretty hard to come back from as Graves, but it's not the end of the world if bel'veth can't actually keep the pressure up. Our mid lane matchup this game is Kassadin into Azir. It doesn't take a mid laner to know that Kassadin will absolutely not get priority into Azir. So how are we supposed to invade again if our mid laner isn't going to be able to move to anything? Well, we can simply just go mid and create the prio for ourselves. Skillshot runs to mid and chunks the Azir, trading away a significant portion of his health, but crippling Azir enough so that he can't move to any fights. Now, it's time to go hunt down the Graves. Even with this pitiful amount of health and no red buff, we can waltz our way in and destroy Graves in the 1v1. Furthermore, we can take away his raptors and completely ruin his day afterwards. Fair to say that losing over half of your jungle at level 1 is bound to make it pretty hard to play the game. Even if you don't manage to catch your opponent at level 1, level 2 is hardly a fair fight either. In this example, he does his raptor start and catches Hecarim doing his Gromp. Because you're able to hold your smite with this strategy, it's incredibly difficult for your opponent to not lose at least a camp to you. And now we can use bel'veth's insane early dueling potential to kill Hecarim and then get to take 2 of his camps away. Now, it's the exact same as before. Go mid, force priority, and just invade again. With level 3, he just doesn't care what Hecarim's doing here. He can run in and start up the red without fear at all. His champion is just that good in a spot like this. With the prio he forced mid, his laner rotates and seals the fate on Hecarim's game before it really even starts. So how about when someone not named Skillshot does this? Let's look at how I managed. I start my raptors as usual, and even against Shaco, arguably one of the fastest 2-camp clears in the game, I get here in time to smite away his Gromp. This just really shows how fast bel'veth is at actually getting into your opponent's jungle. Even though I didn't kill him and Shaco deceives over the wall, taking away the Gromp is a massive blow. It still messes him up a lot. Like, not having Gromp is a big deal. A lot of XP. If you want to get level 3 without Gromp when starting blue, you'd have to get blue, wolves, raptors, and red. 4 camps. With Gromp, you only need 3. So now, because I couldn't stick around to take the wolves too, I can retreat to get level 3 off of my red, and then immediately just invade Shaco again. There are no other champions in the game that can do this. Even though Shaco deceives out of all of my abilities, I have too many dashes for him to get away, and I kill him easily. Oh my god, it's just too easy. By doing these invades, you significantly speed up your level 6 and slow your opponents down, essentially making it a non-factor in the game. If they show up to anything, you can just fight them.
Oh, who could have seen that coming?
Even though Seraphine just dies for free here, Shaco can't actually stop me from doing anything. I can bully him out and then just take the dragon afterwards. Even after spending a ton of time doing dragon, I'm able to hit level 6 and be at Rift Herald as soon as it spawns. And once I've picked up the empowered Void Coral, I'm basically unstoppable for the next 3 minutes. Void Coral lets you go over walls and just gives you a ton of stats. So as soon as I take it, I'm able to continue the relentless assault on Shaco's jungle camps and maintain the pressure for the rest of the game. Once you take objectives or get kills, you're able to make a lot of crazy plays just in general. Be careful not to overdo it though, since dying does mean you lose your awakened form. But definitely don't be afraid to try things, since you'll probably just be owning people. Note that your dashes, even though they're in 4 cardinal directions, do have some leeway with the angle. You can do 3 dashes in one relative direction. As you can see, Skillshot first use southeast, then northeast, and then southwest to chase down Soraka here in the same general direction. W also resets your dash in the direction that it hits, so you can get 4 dashes pretty easily in the same way, making you almost impossible to escape from. Obviously, once you get to this point, you're going to be insanely strong and run over the game, right? We've planned out and snowballed to a point where it's incredibly hard for most opponents to do anything, and most of your games will probably just end at 15 minutes. But now we have to address a few other points. What if they just don't start the same side buff as you and you can't do this? And what the hell are the runes and what do I build? Let's talk about the first point. Raptor's start on bel'veth is still insanely good without this sort of cheese invade. Your laners will be able to go to lane immediately, which hides your starting location and also gives them the push advantage in their lanes. It's really fast, so you'll be able to rush level 3 and get to fights way earlier than most champions. Finishing Gromp around 230 is insanely quick, and it's what lets Skillshot counter gank this Nocturne trying to go for a quick level 3 on his bot lane. Of course, bel'veth is insanely strong early, and even more so with a red buff than without, so this is an easy cleanup for his team. In the first game that I played on bel'veth, the enemy jungler started on bot side, and in this case I decided to invade anyways and took away 2 camps very quickly, gaining the ability to set my opponent behind those 2 camps, hit a quick level 3, and get an uncontested gank off while still having all of my camps up. What I'm getting at is that bel'veth is still insanely strong just as an early champion, and you'll have other ways to get leads because of how fast her initial level 2 is. Even if things don't line up perfectly, you're still just off to a quicker start than your opponents, and in 50% of games where your opponent starts the same side as you, you absolutely crush them, no questions asked. So by now, you can probably see why bel'veth is so strong, so let's get into the other things that you need to know to play her, namely runes and items. Bel'veth runs double AD and armor on her rune page. You will get plenty of attack speed as the game goes on, so you don't need it, and this lets her kill the little raptors without needing to auto them. Armor is super important for fighting early, as it's much better than scaling health or MR before level 6, and as you've seen, we're going to be wanting that pre-6 power. We want to run Conqueror since we can stack it up super quickly, and then we can run Tenacity and Last Stand. Again, you really don't need more attack speed since your Q is an auto attack reset, and you get infinite attack speed eventually. You'll be fighting a lot at low health like you saw, so Last Stand is the obvious choice. Then we're going to want to run Treasure Hunter and Eyeball Collection. More AD is always great, and because we expect to be fighting a lot and snowballing on our opponents, Treasure Hunter enables us to pick up a ton of extra gold throughout the game and keep our snowball going. You'll want to max Q, E, then W. At level 2, if you're not going to fight the enemy jungler, just take E for better clear speed. But if you're going to run into them, take W for the fight. Basically, just hold your skill point until you see someone or need to do their camp, and you'll be able to adapt when the game calls for it. As far as items go, a lot of bel'veths build Kraken Slayer into Bork or Bork into Iceborne Gauntlet. Personally, I don't really like either of these builds. The first is way too squishy, and the second just feels like it lacks damage to me. So I actually recommend going a hybrid between the two. Kraken into Death's Dance helps to survive while still doing significant damage. You can pick up just a null magic mantle before you finish your Death's Dance if you want some magic resist, as just a little bit goes a long way early on in the game. After this, finishing Wit's End is great, and so is Bork, Titanic Hydra, and Guardian Angel. On-hit items are amazing on her, and so are things that let you survive, so take your pick. As an additional point, one might initially want to go Red Smite since you will be up close and personal with your opponents, but blue is better in pretty much every game. Once you're in range, you dominate everyone, and that initial slow helps you just to walk up to people and auto them so you can save Qs to dash into them after they use their escapes. And that's pretty much all you need to know to abuse this insanely strong bel'veth strategy. One of the top players on EU West, currently rank 4 and the highest ranking jungler on the server, has been using this to its fullest potential at the top of Challenger. So if it works there, and it works in Masters, and it worked in SmurfQ for me, there's no doubt in my mind that this will work for literally anyone that wants to pick it up and try it for themselves. Alright, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about Skillcapped. We offer a 5-division rank up guarantee and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week with over 2,000 guides curated into over 270 courses. No one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO hell over 1,100 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all your questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month to improve fast and get the rank you've always wanted. Link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.